How's it going, guys? It's Kass. As always, if you've been enjoying my content, then hit that subscribe button. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about set bonuses and specifically why I think they are a very good thing for the game as a whole. When we think back to Legion, a lot of the things about Demon Hunter specifically that made Legion very, very good is that throughout the expansion, we got a chance to experience almost everything the class had to offer. In the beginning of the expansion, we played a momentum style of build because we didn't have any set bonuses. And then when we moved into the Nighthold, we got our first set bonus that made it so Fury generation for all of our abilities was increased by 10%. And it also gave us our Chaos Strike an 8% increased crit chance. Back then, Chaos Strike's crit would actually be the trigger for the refund instead of the randomness that it is now. So this was actually a very good set bonus and allowed us to play a completely different style build where we were using Chaos Blades and we were using Nemesis to get as much out of those damage windows as possible. Moving on from Nighthold, we went to Tomb of Sargeras, and in Tomb of Sargeras, we had a Blade Dance set bonus. The first set gave Blade Dance 20% increased crit chance, and then the fourth set piece gave Blade Dance 20% Fury refund if it hit at least one enemy. This basically made it so we were pressing Blade Dance off cooldown, and it basically made the equivalent to a First Blood style build just based off of the talent itself. Then moving on to Antorus, we had the Ibeam set. The Ibeam set gave Ibeam 40% increased damage, and then it also gave you 25% increased haste for 8 seconds after finishing the Ibeam channel. This made it so we were playing a demonic style build with Ibeam, obviously. And this really just goes to show, in a period of 2 years, we played 4 completely different builds. It allowed players to basically experience everything that Demon Hunter had to offer, and it allowed them to understand the types of builds that they like and the type of builds that they maybe don't like as much. And while there may be tiers where they're playing a build that they don't like very much, it still allows them to have a chance to experience all that the class has to offer. When we think about BFA though, the artifact system basically made it so the artifact traits that you got really didn't change too much throughout the expansion. At the beginning we had Trail of Ruin, and then we moved from Trail of Ruin into more of the Furious Gaze plus Eye of Rage style. But realistically, a lot of the expansion we were playing the same exact build because of how little competition First Blood had in its talent row. This basically gets to a point where we have the opposite of what we had in Legion. Instead of having 4 independent builds throughout the 2 years that the expansion's out, we had one basic build throughout the whole entire expansion, basically leading to a lot of situations where if you stopped playing for a little bit and then came back for the next tier, you were just coming back to play the exact same playstyle that you got burnt out in the first place, leading to probably faster burnout for most players, for me included. And so this leads to really 2 schools of thought. The main thing that we can think about is all we have to do is just have Blizzard nerf and balance things and buff things so the talents and builds change throughout the tiers in order to get the exact same effect. The main issue with this is that means there's going to be a lot of things that are changed in those windows, and it's going to be incredibly hard for them to balance. It's much easier to just add a set bonus that gives an ability that's already relatively strong a potential boost by like 10% damage, and then it makes it so it's just the better option in those situations. And as long as it's build defining, it'll always change the type of builds players are playing. And another big thing is if we're just nerfing and buffing specific abilities, we'll get to a situation where the balancing is all over the place for the first weeks of the expansion. Set bonuses are just a much easier way to balance the game and also still allow for tuning if the set bonus isn't strong enough. Or in the cases where it's too strong, you can tune it that way as well. It's very easy to tune. This way we get build diversity throughout the expansion, and then we also don't have too many issues with actual class tuning, hopefully. So then let's move into the next issue that I'm sure some of you have. And that issue is these are raid only set bonuses. So I'm a Mythic Plus player or I'm a PvPer and I will be forced to get these. And while I think that's not necessarily the worst thing to happen, I do sympathize with those people that don't play every aspect of the game and think that there's a pretty simple solution around this. There's really 2 schools of thoughts here. There's either one school where you have set bonuses only work in raid, which, although unfortunately a lot of times that will lead to situations where people will get excluded from raids if they're only Mythic Plusers and trying to get into a raid for like a legendary or something like that. Although in most situations early in the expansion or early in the patch, it's probably not that big of a deal if you don't have your set bonus right away. But as you get further and further into expansion, if you want to dabble into raiding and you don't have that set bonus, obviously there's going to be problems with that. While I think that's probably not too big of a deal for most players, it's definitely going to be an issue for some. And that's really where this second option really comes into play. I think it'd be pretty cool if there was like a seasonal set bonus. And basically what this seasonal set bonus would do is it would be a set bonuses for Mythic Plus and for Raid and potentially PvP too. The main thing is with set bonuses and PvP, a lot of the times it detracts from overall gameplay and how the game feels. So honestly, I would probably lean towards probably not having set bonuses allowed in PvP, just so even if it was on PvP gear, it didn't force you to play a specific build that could potentially be worse for the way that your class plays in player versus player. So then with this seasonal set bonus for Mythic Plus and raiding, you would basically have it be so each Mythic dungeon has a chance to drop a set piece in the last chest, and then it would be one piece per dungeon, and you'd have a 8 in our situation. Dungeons would have individual pieces that would drop from them, and this would mean that you would have like 4 set pieces that you would have to be wearing to get the set bonus. So you would only really have to target farm 4 dungeons for a specific piece that you wanted in order to get the set bonus. Then the set bonus would also work in raid. On the other side, you would have the same set bonus in raid. It would work the way that normal set bonuses did, where specific bosses drop set pieces. I don't think there should really be any combination between the two where you're like wearing 2 raid set pieces and 2 Mythic Plus set pieces, just so it doesn't like force people to play Mythic Plus if they only want to raid, or force people to raid if they only want a Mythic Plus, especially early in the expansion. I think that solution would allow players that play Mythic Plus to also be able to raid in a decent situation. And it would also allow players to raid to not have to worry about doing as much Mythic Plus as possible in order to get access to those set bonuses. This basically would lead to an expansion that has a lot of build diversity throughout it and allows players to experience everything that the class has to offer while still allowing you to play the game that you want to play. I think it'd be a great option for balancing as well, so there wouldn't have to be big balancing patches to change these specs around in order to get builds that are changing throughout the expansion. And it would just generally help the health of the game with combating player burnout. As always, if you liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't like the video, F5 refresh, try it again, maybe like the second time. Have a good one.